Hey, I'm Steve Diggs, and welcome back to Insights, where you always get a ton of content at the speed of light. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most life-changing concepts that I have ever learned. What's it about and how does it work? This is something that all of the great communicators and successful people among us seem to understand. Some of them understand it as a defined skill, others just do it intuitively. But people who succeed and people who really communicate at their very best are the people who get and understand what I call the G.B.E. Well, Steve, what is the G.B.E? Here's what I'm talking about. If we want to communicate with other people, we have always got to go for the goosebump effect. That's what the G.B.E is. What does that mean? Well, you've noticed the goosebumps that you get on your arm sometimes when somebody really touches your heart. And folks, I'm telling you, this is something that people need to understand today in a way that we never have before. Now, again, I don't want to get into a lot of the conversation on it right here, but I will tell you that the great cultural debate today is between the modernist and the postmodernist. If you are in your late 40s and older, you're probably a modernist. You were born over a 300 or 400 year period going back where people really believed that if you got all the facts together and stacked them up on top of each other, you would come to a clear, non-negotiable truth. And it didn't matter how you felt or how you behaved, that was truth. Now, again, we can relate to that if we're in our late 40s and older. I am a modernist. However, people that are in their 30s and younger these days, these people are generally referred to as postmodern. Why? Because they were born in the postmodern era. In this age, younger people are believing that, hey, your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. Whatever works for you is fine. If it feels good, do it. Don't get into my space. Now, frankly, I happen to agree and disagree with both sides. I do, like modernists believe, I do believe that there is such a thing as absolute truth, absolutely. I really believe that. But on the other side, I do understand postmodernists who look at people like me and they say, well, Steve, if you've got all the truth, why don't you act like it? Why don't you show more compassion? Why don't you really have a heart for other people? Not just the facts, but the feelings. And in truth, like I said, I think both sides have a legitimate point here. If you're going to succeed, especially with people in the postmodern generation, even if whether you're one of them or not, if you want to succeed with people like this, really communicate well, you need to understand that you've got to do two things. First, you've got to tell the story, and secondly, you've got to touch the heart. Lead with the story. And by the way, before you become too critical of me on this, I have not been a bit shy about telling people that my greatest hero is Jesus Christ. I believe that Jesus is the answer to our problems. But Jesus was a great teacher. And if you think about how he taught, this is what he did. He led with a story. I mean, he could have gone back, and on occasion he did go back and quote Old Testament scriptures. But generally he led with a story that we call a parable. He knew that if he would touch a person's heart, then he could really, really communicate the truth. This is when, folks, change really happens. Good things happen going forward. You know, I'm along with a bunch of other people who used to use that old cliche, used to say, you know, the longest trip in the world, the longest 15-inch trip in the world, that is one from our head to our heart. I don't really believe that one anymore. I really do believe these days that the longest 15-inch trip that we will ever take is a trip that will begin with the heart and then go to the head. I call this the motivation information matrix. But when we touch a person's heart and then they become receptive, then we can communicate the real data that needs to go along with it. Touching a heart doesn't accomplish the goal, but when we really do begin to share the data because the heart is now open, that's, again, when change happens. Hey, I'm Steve Diggs. This has been Insights. Great content at the speed of light. Catch you next time.